The Indomitable Triad. A triad, or a cycle of three, is seen to be a frequently occurring sequence in nature. Many natural phenomena usually complete in three stages, three parts, or three phases. For example, 1. The triad of thought, word, and deed can account for most functions of human activity. 2. Human existence on earth is usually covered by the sequence of birth, life, and death. 3. The triad of human evolution is seen in the development of body, mind, and soul. 4. Matter is seen to exist in the three states of solid, liquid, and gas. 5. The three phases of life could be represented by past, present, and future, or yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And 6. A day is usually divided into the three stages of morning, noon, and night. The list can go on, but let's pause here to reflect on these first. An examination of the above triad sequence shows that for a fuller understanding of such natural phenomena, it is essential to study the three stages or states both individually and collectively. Though each stage is a complete domain by itself, yet it contributes to the entire picture only in combination with the others. Let us study these phenomena in some detail and see if there is any reasonable connection between these stages and if this exercise makes any viable sense. It may be pointed out at the very outset that this is not a scientific paper and relies heavily on common sense, some conjecture, and derived logic. It should be seen with an open mind and read in the context of what it says rather than seeking proof for its refutation. Thoughts or ideas exist at the metaphysical level and originate from the activities of chemicals in the brain. Or is it the reverse? That is, the impingement of thoughts on the brain result in the release of chemicals in it, which then transmit signal to its agents, the senses, to define all activity in life. This intricate question, much like the chicken and the egg situation, keeps man probing and guessing for answers from time he started to think about himself. Now, if chemical activity is the basic cause, then chemicals and how they work are questions for medical experts to decipher and are best left for them to tackle. But if the thought is the origination of the process, then speculation and philosophy can try its hands first. However, for the present, it is sufficient for us to accept the fact that some process does happen in the brain and that this is what sets man thinking, planning, and then acting. The intangible idea or thought sets in motion some activity in the brain which is responsible to convert the thought to an expression through words. Words are the intermediary state of giving vent to feelings and are instrumental to bring the idea or the abstract to the domain of physical experience. Now, to be able to flourish and achieve material existence, these thoughts that result in words or plans, so to say, have to be acted upon through the performance of physical acts or deeds. Only then can they be established or said to have an effect on the material world of senses. In other words, the intangible ideas or thoughts go through a process of expression and planning, and then through action can be made into tangible objects or things. The entire activity, comprising the process of thoughts, words, and deeds, goes to accomplish the functions of the triad. This results in the conversion of the intangible or metaphysical to the physical or the material plane of existence. Were a thought or idea not expressible in words or plan, it would be very difficult to put it in practice and action. It would then remain an innate or a dormant notion, not able to leave any effect or accomplish any change in the material world. If you bear with the logic and reasoning of this discourse, it will try to show that the direction of the effect is in fact really cyclical and has a multidimensional tendency. That is, although the beginning of the exercise of life may have been at the non-physical level of thought and has ultimately reached the physical state of matter, it can also reverse or traverse the course of conversion from the physical to the original or the metaphysical form, and finally trace a complete cyclical pattern. It is very difficult to accept a thought or idea to be a reality unless there is some tangible effect of it on the material world. If the effect can be felt and observed, it can be experimented with and proven or disproved, and its existence becomes either acceptable or is rejected by man. It is in the nature of humans to question, verify, and judge, and only then accept or reject the validity of an idea. This is so because itself man is the physical manifestation of a concept, and as a result of which he leaves an effect on his surroundings. A child is a conception of thought, or conceiving of an idea to conceive a child. Once the thought occurs in the mind, it is expressed and acted upon to get an effect, which results in an outcome. Sometimes this entire thought process is consciously understood and knowingly implemented by the conceiving couple, but sometimes the outcome is an unplanned result of the act. Thoughts have to be shown the light of the day by putting them to plan and action, and in any case, a reaction is a result of some action and could not have come about in isolation, one of the other. Let us examine another triad: birth, life, and death. The start of life at birth is similar to the origination of thought of the previous triad. The beginning of life comes from and starts with an unconscious phase in human existence. This contention will become clearer with the following example. A baby may be born possessing some or all innate knowledge, but is unable to utilize it to its own advantage because of the child's inability to convert it into coherent action. This form of knowledge is an unconscious manifestation of awareness and is somehow a metaphysical state or form of knowing. That is, it may be in the possession of the child, but he does not yet know how to utilize or benefit from it. As life progresses, the child starts to get aware or conscious of its surroundings. It develops hand, eye, and mind coordination, which in turn is the learning of technique to utilize its own faculties. It is in a way discovering its knowledge. In other words, it is becoming aware or removing the cover of what is yet hidden and not within its conscious grasp. With the passage of time and the development of its faculties, the child learns by trial and error at first, and then through experience and intelligence, It then begins to gain awareness and conscious knowledge about the world. The extent to which it will go depends on a number of factors such as environmental, circumstantial, psychological, etc. The childhood phase is in reality a phase of coming out from unconsciousness to consciousness. It is not essential that each of us will require or reach the level of consciousness fully, for most pass on without ever fathoming or harnessing our full potential. Why? This is a separate topic by itself and shall be dealt with some other time. Now, with the coming of age, one seems to achieve full control over one's faculties, and that is when one is said to have grown up. This is the stage when one is aware of and in control of oneself. This is in fact a state of being consciously conscious. With the further passage of time, human faculties begin to retard and tend to lose full efficiency. In this stage, one may be aware or conscious, knowledgeable and even wiser, but on the physical decline, because then she is not able to do all that much as could be done in the past. This is the stage when one is consciously becoming unconscious. The drift to final unconsciousness is known as death. Death is a condition when physical faculties stop functioning. Yet perhaps awareness and knowledge has taken a full cycle and gone from one unconscious state to another, having traversed an all-important in-between stage of conscious awareness. It is not essential that each one of us will acquire or reach this level, and most pass on without ever fathoming or harnessing their full potential. Why? This is again a separate topic by itself. The triad of body, mind and soul is another interesting phenomena to examine. The development of the human body, aside from religious pronouncements, seems to be the outcome of a long and steady evolutionary process and upward progression of matter, which in itself is perhaps a conversion from a metaphysical to physical or material world level. The Greek philosophers considered all matter to consist of atoms, and that these were the smallest particles which could not be broken down any further. Modern science has come a long way from there and has even smashed the atom down to its elementary particles, which themselves seem neither particles nor elementary, because they do not exist freely in nature nor seem to be matter at all. They can be conceptualized mathematically and may be computed from their non-physical properties. Elementary particles are seen to be a combination of different forms of energy, like electric, magnetic, and gravitational. If this is what a human body consists of, then it is surely something else besides being matter alone, and this is a point to ponder and study. At every stage of life, a person is learning, consciously or unconsciously, or, as has been said earlier, is discovering his or her innate knowledge. She is really grooming oneself for the next stage of existence and is slowly evolving towards it. Death, which is nothing but this stage, if seen this way, will be viewed positively rather than feared or mentally avoided. The stage of living through physical and mental life is the process of molding of the soul, nurturing or decaying of it. The soul, which is a cohesive life force, seeps through all living bodies and is intrinsically integrated with each living cell of it. It is an evolved form of life that is a higher rung than mind on the scale of hierarchy, discussed in detail in the essay Evolution, the Inevitable Phenomena. The soul's characteristics can be speculated from the holonic point of view, where it is seen that as the mind transcends and incorporates the holon of the body, the soul must transcend and incorporate the holon of the mind, and as a consequence, all holons before it. Now, studying the characteristics of the mind reveals that it is capable of receiving and processing thoughts and then converting them to words, schemes, and actions. The soul must thus be capable of this and one step more. The increase in the capability of the holon of the soul gives it the power not only to think but also communicate with other minds, incorporate and transcend them. This may be a questionable concept, but nonetheless a logical next step in terms of holarchy. It gives the soul a capability to perceive and perhaps act both in this and in another dimension, itself more evolved than the realm of the physical universe. The soul must possess the capacity of both singular and a collective awareness, meaning that it can exist in both the physical and the metaphysical phases of existence. Like both the mind and the body can be promoted, developed, and evolved by constructive acts and doings, so also the soul can be cultivated and nurtured by good acts or moral deeds, but cringed, shrunk, or diminished by neglect and a wrong attitude. And as we have seen that in the act of sieving, the coarse grains are rejected, so the same principle of selection can be applied to the process of progressive evolution of any system, be it body, mind, or soul, or any other. The secret of progress of a system is to have a knowledge of the process that promotes wellness and aids the reformation from a coarse or mundane level to evolve it to the next stage. The next triad of solid, liquid, gas is a study in which matter can exist, depending upon the content of its energy. For example, water can exist in the form of ice, solid state, as water, liquid state, or as steam, gaseous state. The chemical composition of the three states is the same, H2O. Only its physical outlook changes with the change of state. The primary difference is the amount of energy or latent heat each condition has. To change water into ice, one needs to take away heat energy from it to the tune of 80 calories per gram. On the other hand, to convert the same water to steam, one has to add 540 calories of heat energy to every gram. Energy, once again an intangible or non-physical entity, can in some way be equated with consciousness or awareness as discussed above. The conversion from a pre-born state to take human shape at the time of birth must also be an addition of some kind of energy, force, or power to the previous level, that which would enable it to withstand the conditions and situations of this material world. The whole process may not be an instantaneous, but requires a period of 9 months of incubation. The living of life through the material mode is akin of going through the process of elevation in the energy content, that is, going from an unconscious mode to awareness and control of one's faculties. When sufficient energy, or as in our discussion above, enough awareness has been accumulated, a change of state becomes imminent. This change of state in the case of living things is called death. Seen this way, death is nothing but a mode of transference of existence from one state to another. To reflect what has been said above, a human seems to be born in an unconsciously conscious state, out of which it struggles to gain awareness all its life, and then consciously transfers to a super or above conscious mode of existence. This brings us to the next triad of nature. The triad of past, present and future is a sequential triad for the passage of time, itself a commodity of trading existence, the purpose of which cannot be all here and now, or, as it has been said, eat, drink and be merry, for tomorrow you die. As discussed in the essay, A Muslim's Destiny, every now, which is also known as present, was once out there, that is also called the future, and will eventually become a then, which is the past. And so the natural cycle of life continues to churn. This is how time is spent, and with it all human effort. Or to say it another way, time and effort seem to recede or deplete. In a way, they go back. Now, according to the laws of physics, and so also of nature, to every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Hence, if time and everything connected with it goes in a certain direction, something should come out of it as the effect of that cause and would proceed in the opposite direction. The outcome of this decrease in time, etc., is the increase in knowledge and or awareness. In other words, there is a price to be paid for everything. In yet another way, gain in awareness is the return of one's investment of time and effort, or consummation of the self. This achievement may not be a monetary gain, but believe me, it is worth much more. One thing that comes out of all human activity is the unveiling and expanding of new vistas of vision, that is, the furthering of knowledge and awareness. Every step in physical, mental, and spiritual advancement is basically the increase of awareness and knowledge, which consequently leads to self-growth and further evolution. See how beautifully nature maneuvers the evolution of matter to mind, to body, and then soul through its passage of time. Let us now see the meaning of the triad of morn, noon, and night. The dawn of civilization, the rising of the sun, the fulfillments of life to its optimum capacity, etc., are all symbolic of enlightenment, visibility, and awareness and capability. As we have been discussing all along, awareness and knowing is the key to all survival and meaningful existence. Maximum awareness is visible at the prime of life. Most vitality and energy from the sun is given out at its peak, the noon. The day, having thus dispensed with its energy, leaves the world in darkness, the night. The night is really a period of incubation for the entire creation to take in and assimilate the effects of their effort during the day, and having thus evolved through the cycle of the triad, be set to begin to a new, evolved or different level at the start of the next day, all over again. To traverse the path of life from birth to prime and then to death is accomplished, as said earlier, by self-consummation, that is, by spending or utilizing of the available time and energy. This is done either knowingly or unknowingly during the triad of the morning, noon and night. If done knowingly, self-satisfaction can be achieved and higher meaning of life can be understood, and one is said to have lived a fulfilled and useful life. If done unknowingly, all life is spent at the level of mundane animal existence, fulfilling the chores of the body and the flesh, neither flourishing nor developing the mind or the soul. This is akin to being held back in the sieve and not filtering to the next stage of higher evolution. Natural phenomena show continuity from the beginning to the end. In actuality, there seems to be no beginning and no end at all. As said earlier, a cyclical pattern is perhaps the order of the day. All the triads studied so far show this behavior. For example, morning, noon and night is a continuous happening without a visibly clear distinction as to the end of the morning and the beginning of the noon. And then the day gradually turns into night without a clear demarcation between the ending of light and the beginning of darkness. Only when a state is well established can we give it a name of a distinct mode of the triad. The rate of change is so gradual that at normal levels of study the discernment is not distinguishable. Even at the macro or the micro scales there is no possibility of any clear picture. Now on the macro scale, that is at stellar levels, both distances and time lapses are so large that their immensities are still not grasped by man. Observations and measurements are still being studied in detail to make visible sense. In space, energy and matter frames are limitless, and it is difficult to discern as to where energy dimensions end and matter begins, as they overlap and become indistinguishable. At the other end of the scale, at the quantum level, things take on a similar hue, and a clear distinction between matter and energy once again becomes hazy. Quantum mechanics is the scientific study of microsystems, that is, systems at the minute end of the scale. At those levels, matter shows dual characteristics. That is, it behaves both as a particle and a wave of energy. This may be difficult to grasp, but it is handled explicitly at the mathematical level. Yet, to express in terms of communicative language, it can be seen as a concurrence of a simultaneous physical and metaphysical manifestation, meaning that if one tries to measure the momentum and the position of a subatomic particle at any given moment, it will not be accurately determinable. If the momentum can be measured with some certainty, the particle's position will be incoherent, and if the position is clearly ascertained, its momentum will not be ascertainable. Consider this truth for a moment, and one realizes that at the point of conversion from the metaphysical to the physical, it is neither physical nor metaphysical, and it may be more accurate to say that it is both physical and metaphysical at the same time. However, one derives the inference that at that level both are interchangeable and fluid. Yet the origination seems to be at the metaphysical level, because that which cannot be ascertained with certainty is more in the realm of the unknown, and that an unknown is not a physical entity, at best only some speculation. It must reside at the metaphysical level and then be converted to an entity or a physical state to be tangible or become known. If all action can be broken down to its final rudiments, it too will manifest a similar disposition. That is, before execution, an action exists in the mind as a thought, at the metaphysical or energy level. The interaction of that state with the physical body produces what it produces in the brain. The conversion of this thought then goes through the process of planning or expression through words, and then through action and deeds. These syllables, unless expressed vocally or on paper, remain in the realm of both material and non-material at the same time. Once put into practice, they become material and obtain an identity of an entity. They are then governable by the laws of classical physics. It thus goes to show that all existence is primarily at the metaphysical level, becoming an identifiable material presence by the converting power of the mind, and then having lived through a period in the space-time continuum seem to dissipate into oblivion, yet leaving some effect on the material world of reality and human comprehension. To quote Asadullah Khan Ghalib, the famous poet-philosopher of the East, who put this so aptly as "Hasti ke mat fareb mein aa jai o asad, alam tamam halqa-e dam-e khayal hai." Be not deceived, O Asad, by the dazzle of creation. All existence is encircled by the net of imagination. It thus seems that all creation is really a figment of one's imagination. Whose? Who can say? Just think and reflect.